Hello YouTube, welcome to another instant card analysis. I do realize that this information came out 2 days ago, but I didn't stream 2 days ago. So we're going to talk about the cards now. Upcoming exchange event, Aloha Tropical Getaway. We'll basically have a 24-hour break period between the end of SBL and then heading into this item exchange event. We're on the screen with all the free cards, so we'll talk about that. Another thing, we knew about this already, but Mijuku Dreamer is coming as the Temp song. This will be story chapter 30 stage 1 when we do get story chapter 30. We know of the voltage ranking songs. We were given this information ahead of time. Snow Halation, Kimikoko, Sweet Eyes. All 3 of these songs are Advanced Plus. So, if you can, you should be playing Advanced Plus. Even if you don't pass it, they will probably still net you better scores. For those of you on YouTube, I will say, however, if, let's say, you don't have a good pure attribute team, right? And you cannot play the regular advanced version. You don't have a good elegant attribute team, and you can't play the advanced plus version. Another option that you do have is Story Chapter 24 Stage 6. Story Chapter 24 Stage 6 is a natural attribute song. So if you have a good natural attribute team, or if you just kind of want to build like a, go for it all at once, kind of, tank the song team, because this formation, your natural formation will score better than if you tried to play it on Advanced Plus. Snow Halation and the Elegant attribute, by all means, go ahead. Kimikoko, if you can't pass the advanced, you should be able to pass the advanced. If you can't pass the Advanced Plus, but you're still looking for other options for you to score, there are a few. There's Story Chapter 12, Stage 5, Story Chapter 16-3. Both of those are in the Smile attribute. Then you have Story Chapter 21, Stage 8, Story Chapter 24, Stage 5, and Story Chapter 29, Stage 3. 21-8 is in the Elegant attribute. Story Chapter 24, Stage 5 is in the Cool attribute. And 29-3 is going to be in the Pure attribute. So those are other options you have if you cannot clear the Advanced Plus version. Then Sweet Eyes, unfortunately, we only have an Advanced Plus version, so even if you don't score really, really well on Sweet Eyes, do remember that, about a third of the voltage total to S-Rank Sweet Eyes comes as AC reward voltage, right? The S-Rank threshold is 17.13 million, okay? The total AC reward voltage is 6.567 million. So, if you can build your teams to kind of basically get you through the appeal chances, you'll actually be okay. The only issues with the appeal chances you're probably gonna have, right, is appeal chances 1, 3, and 5 all require 150k SP gauge pops. So if you have cards like First Fist Kanan. You know, something like that is really good, right? An SP Gauge Bomber. Those types of cards are actually pretty good for Sweet Eyes to make sure you get the 150k voltage. Okay, so once again, Aloha Tropical Getaway Item Exchange Event. Now, the Aloha, right, implies that the girls are going to Hawaii. We don't know that for sure, but that is insinuated. Okay, as far as the free cards go, we'll start from the bottom and scroll up. SRs, Nijiiro Heart, Kasumi, Smile Attribute, SK Type. Like, this is pretty on par for free event SR stats. Like about 6,000 appeal, 6,000 technique. Like, this is about kind of average. Skill activation, rate up, tap active would normally be okay. However, her tap active is only same attribute, so it really hinders her usability. Passive kind of sucks. It's the technique up. I mean, it increases her crit rate, yeah, but not great. Nijiiro Heart Kasumi does give you, however, for all of you that cheese during SBL, whether it be SP gauges, skill activations, heal, stamina heal, tap skills, this card gives you another backline option, right? Upon strategy switch, 30% chance to increase skill activation by 8% for the next 10 notes, affects all cards. So, you know, this is right in line with cards like Snowhalation Maki, Barada Umi, you know, Cheerleader Yohane. It's in line with cards like that. So, you know, if you need to run a card like this for your cheese teams, definitely you can put her as a backliner. Unfortunately, that's probably all she's good for. Okay. Then we have Angelic Angel Rain, who is apparently trying to do the hula. Active attribute, SP type, 6,400 appeal, 4,700 stamina, 5,700 technique. SP gauge filler, 7%. It's, I mean, it, you know, that's what SRs do, right? 7% of 7% gauge fill versus URs, which are 9% normally. So it's an okay card. Again, technique self passive, not good. Even the SP gauge gain, like, you know, you do have to admire that the passive lines up with the live show active or show skill or whatever you want to call it, but it's an SR, so the amount of fill that you're gonna get off of this, and it's only a 50% chance to get this like refill. It's 2% of her technique. It's not a ton. Like it's very rarely gonna do anything for you. So, you know, both of these cards are basically just filler costume, you know, for costume completions and stuff like that. And then the free event UR is Tropical Vacation Kanata. Smile attribute, voltage type, 11,620 base appeal, 5,133 base stamina, 10,270 base technique. Now I'm gonna start with the passive. 4.2% appeal buff to same attribute passive. This is actually not as great as you may think it is. The appeal same attribute cards, normally in the past, appeal same attribute cards, and especially appeal same attribute, you know, gacha cards, fest cards that have appeal same attribute passives, the amount of appeal that they buff at max limit break is normally 5.2%. However, these last two event cards have both been 1% lower on the max side. So they've only been buffing 4.2%, which does knock it down just a little bit. But when you look at the stats for the card, this is still very, very adequate for a free UR. Now, assuming, this is, as always, this is assuming, right, that you get the card to max limit break. It does get considerably weaker if you're only able to get it to limit break, get the card to limit break 2 or something. But this is still, stat-wise, it's not bad for a free card. Her LSA increases skill activation percentage by 10% for the first 15 notes of the song, with this skill activating at a 30% rate. These kind of LSAs are not good, right? It's basically, right, first 15 notes, and that's it. The card is basically exhausted its use. And because it only activates 30% of the time, right? And cards like Blue Amor Umi, Fes Mari, Initial Ruby, right? Cards like that have base appeal increases by 5% for all members in your formation for the entirety of the song, with those show skills or LSAs activating at the same 30% rate. I would much rather have any of those skills, even as a backliner, I would rather have any of those skills than this one. Okay? Now, the tap active part of it. And this is where this particular event becomes very weird. Kanata's tap active. It's not good, right? It already starts off not good, right? Kanata's tap active already starts off not good, right? It's a voltage gain increase. 10% for 5 notes, that's actually okay, right? 10% voltage gain increase for the next 5 notes, that's actually okay. Affects same strategy, okay, that's fine. The biggest issue is right here. This is the first time since game start that a UR has something different than a 33% skill activation chance. Every other UR in the game has a 33% skill activation rate, which is why I stopped talking about that on the videos when it comes to tap actives, because all URs have the same 33% skill activation rate on their tap active. However, this card, along with the other 2 gacha cards associated with this event, the other 2 URs associated with the event, all have 11% skill activation rates. So, no matter how good these cards may be, there is a very, very hard cap as to how good these cards can actually be, simply because of the skill activation rate. Okay? And mind you, this is my own personal opinion. If down the line or before the event starts or what have you, K-Lab decides and realizes, oh, well, we actually screwed up. These are supposed to be, the tap actives are supposed to be 33% skill activation. The chance of you hitting these tap skill activations are supposed to be at a 33% chance versus an 11% chance. If they come out and they say that before the event, then that does change the evaluation of the card. But as of right now, it is hard to give any 3 of the event URs, this Kanata, and we'll see them later, the Honoka and the Kanan, it is hard to grade out any of them basically any higher than a 7, simply because of the skill activation rate on their tap actives. So would you say this is one of the rare times you would use skill activation insights to get on these URs? No. Never. These cards, while they are good, right? Like, if we were to take the tap active, right? If we were to just take this tap active, right? And we just ignore it, right? We just ignore the tap active and the percent activation chance. For a free UR, this card is like an 8. It's like a 7 or an 8. Like, she could have a bollocks tap active, right? She could have like a terrible tap active, right? If this free Kanata card was, you know, has all of these stats, has the same passive, has the same live show active, and let's say, for instance, they made her the first voltage type card with a skill activation rate of tap active. But the skill activation rate of tap active activates at a 33% chance, in line with the rest of the URs. I would still grade this card out as like a 7 or an 8. Because there are some ways that you could try to build around a voltage type card with a skill activation rate of tap active, right? You could basically take the line of, you know, if you're going to, let's say, hard tank a song and go triple voltage, right? You could pair this particular card with 2 other voltage boost tap active cards, right? And increase the skill activation rate of the voltage boost type cards, you know, if it, you know, whether it be like a First Fest Kanan, a First Fest Sestina, a Party Yo, New Year's Rico, any of that kind of stuff, right? You could do that, and it actually wouldn't be too bad. Right? But with a card like this, having a tap active skill activation chance of 11%, okay? Chat, give me the name of like any Smile Attribute song. Any Smile Attribute song. We're gonna... Now, normally we don't do math here on the stream, okay? But this is gonna be one of those few exceptions, because I want to prove a point. Chat, anybody in chat, give me the name of any Smile Attribute song. Loveless World. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Okay, Loveless World. Okay? Loveless World has 186 notes. Okay? So, let's say you are single stratting Loveless World, right? And you're tanking Loveless World because you know that it's very hard to die on Loveless World because you get shields via the AC gimmicks, okay? So, Loveless World has 186 notes, okay? Which means, if you are running a single strategy formation with this Kanata in it, she will tap a total of 62 times. Okay? Now, when we take into consideration her skill activation rate, on average, for Loveless World, this free Kanata will have her skill activate a grand total of 7 times. 7 times in a 186 note song. This is why, for a song like Loveless World, I would actually rather have a card that has a much better tap active that can actually help me, but the card is off attribute. Right? I would much rather run like a weaker Smile attribute voltage type card than this. What about Brightest Melody? Brightest Melody is 173. So each card will roughly tap 50. There's 2 cards that'll tap 58 times, 1 card that'll tap 57 times. So let's say Kanata is one of the cards that taps 58 times. Okay? Kanata's tap active will still average about 6 skill activations. 6 total skill activations for all of Brightest Melody. At that point, the card actually becomes useless. Because let's say, right, this is an average 11% skill activation chance. Let's say you roll low. This card only activates her skill, her tap skill, 5 times. Right? This 11% chance right here is just an average. This card could easily have her tap active go off 5 times during Brightest Melody, or even 4. You know, if you extremely low roll it, you never know. What about something like Yume no Ippo? Oh god. Yume no Ippo 165. So 55 taps per card. Yeah, it's still an average of 6 skill activations per song. And so, like I said, with these skill activations, you kind of have to decrease how good these cards actually are, because it's basically like these tap actives aren't there ever. It's basically like these tap actives aren't there. So a tweet saying it could be okay for a song with skill activation up 4 gimmicks. So I mentioned Yume no Ippo. Yeah. Okay, so let's say, so during Yume no Ippo, right? There are 43 notes within the ACs. Okay? And all the ACs give a 20% skill activation rate up. Here's the issue I have with that. What is a 20% increase on an 11% skill activation rate? Right? If you have an 11% skill activation rate and you multiply and you add 20%, that means this card for Yume no Ippo has a whopping 13% skill activation rate chance.
You cannot get rid of your fear. I shall always be here in your place. Just like poker is always there for Ruby with haste. These new cards have high stats but proc is very low. I do not think it would be beneficial.
113? No, it's a 13% skill activation rate.
Blue ringed octopus,
right?
Or the
You have an 11% chance, and you add on 20%, right? 0.11 times 1.2, right? That's a 20% increase. So the card now has a 13.2% skill activation rate. Big whoop, right? Big whoop. It's a 13% skill activation rate. I would much rather have a Smile attribute card with a tap active that does anything than run a card that has a tap active of, 11% and an 11% skill activation rate. Now, for something like this Kanata card, would it be good in Loveless World? Of course, right? Loveless World, you're not really more concerned about the tap active. You're concerned about putting voltage type cards in your front line because Loveless World skews towards voltage type cards. But as a general rule, this card is like a 6. This card is basically like a 6. That's as high as it goes. Okay? Then we get to the gacha portion. Okay? We have Hula Dancing Ruby. Hula Dancing Mijuku Dreamer Ruby. 7,700, basically 7,800 appeal, 6k stamina, 6,200 tech. The stats on the card are actually not bad. The tap active is not great. It's not great, right? SP gauge gain is not fantastic, and it's only for 3 notes, same strategy cards. It's not great. Stamina increased by 5% for same strategy cards. I mean, this passive doesn't really match the card typing, right? It's a cool attribute SP type, and she's getting a stamina up tap passive, right? It's kind of it's like Cheerleader Kanan but worse. And then her live show active increased SP gauge gain by 9% for 30 notes, but you can only use it once. This is for the first 30 notes after you use your first SP gauge. After that, the card's usage is done. That's it. So, it's costume filler, right? This card is not a Soreboku Maki. It's not a Snow Halation Kotori. It's not a Just Believe Kanata. It's not a No Brand Girls Umi or any of the the stronger SRs. It also doesn't have a good kit to warrant any backlining shenanigans like Cheerleader Kanan. So it's, this card is kind of whatever. Okay, and then we'll actually go with the face of the scouting side of the banner in Kanan. But I will note, so for any of you Ruby Oshis, right? If you are a Ruby Oshi and you are dying to get Mijuku Dreamer Ruby, right? You do have an opportunity. There is a special banner that allows you to use 500 paid stars to get 100 shiny quartz, which is, right, 80 shiny quartz allows you to exchange for a free SR. So, if you want the Ruby SR and you can, and you don't want to use any free gems, but you need the Ruby, you can use 500 paid gems and basically guarantee yourself the card. Now, it is only a Scout 10, but you're basically exchanging the 500 paid gems for, the new SR. Right? And this is also going to be kind of huge when it comes to if we ever have this type of banner and a quote-unquote meta event card comes out, because what this does, right, is normally this 100 shiny quartz you would get over the course of 5,000 free gems, right? 5,000 free gems would normally net you 100 shiny quartz. But now you're only having to use 500 paid star gems. Okay? So what does this mean? If there is a UR on the banner that you would like to spark, it will cost you, let's say you have, enough free gems. This would cost you 500 paid gems and 7,500 free gems. Meaning your spark goes down from 12,500 free gems to 7,500 free gems and 500 paid. So we will see, basically, if this will affect any meta cards and such going forward. Alright, so, Kanan. I don't think limited UR banners will have it. Yeah, it's just during events. So it'll happen during IDEX and Marathon, I believe. But not for parties and fest banners, no. Alright, so Kanan. Dolphins back here. Kanan. Smile attribute voltage type. 14,000 base appeal, 8,400 base stamina, 10,118 base technique. And here's what I'm talking about. Remember the free event Kanata, right? She has the same attribute appeal buffing passive. She maxes out at 4.2%. The Gacha Kanan caps out at 5.2%. Okay? LSA increased crit power by 10% for the next 3 notes. 30% chance of activation on strategy switch. Same attribute. This skill is way too niche to even, talk about in depth. This is a very niche skill that you'll probably never ever have to worry about. So, I'm gonna pass over it for now. Then, let's get to our tap active, because this is what people are freaking out about, right? This is what people are freaking out about. Kanan has a hybrid tap active, which gives her a voltage boost, right? The voltage boost tap active side of this is a 45% of her appeal as voltage, which is actually better than her fest card. Okay? Because her fest card caps out at 42. If I remember correctly. Right? It's 42. I'm pretty sure it was 42. I just want to verify and make sure. I don't want to give you guys incorrect information. Yeah, it's 42% at max limit break for her tap active on her fest card, as for the voltage boost side. Then, in addition to the voltage boost, if the voltage boost wasn't good enough, she gives an appeal increase by 12% for the next 3 notes, only affecting the same attribute. So the affecting the same attribute does kind of hinder the cards, some of the cards' top line usability. This, just based stat wise, this is still a very good card for Advanced Plus, right? This is a very good card for your Tokimeki runners, your Sore Bokus, your Mirai Bokus, right? This card is good for all of them, just based on the pure stats. Now again, the skill activation chance is 11%. So as much as people were freaking out about, holy crap, her voltage boost side of her tap active is better than her fest card, and she gives an appeal increase by 12% for 3 notes, it only activates at 11% chance. So the easiest way to think about this, right, is to basically, one of the ways you could possibly think about this is, right, this happens a third of the time less. So how would you evaluate this particular card, right? Here's how I look at it. How would you evaluate this particular card if her tap active, her hybrid tap active, was gain 15% of her own appeal as voltage and increase appeal of same attribute cards by 4% for the next 3 nodes? It is a very cheap equivalent, right? It's a very cheap comparison, right? Instead of you know, the skill as it is, right? What I'm doing is I'm saying, if we kept the skill activation rate at 33%, but we dropped the power of the tap active by 1/3, how would you guys view the tap active? Right? The tap active is basically non-existent, right? There are not many instances where you as a player would look at a card with 14,000 base appeal, 10,000 base technique, and a tap active. You know, you expect the tap active to be strong, right? You would expect the tap active to be strong. It's a very beefy, very, you know, we make the joke all the time. The K in K Lab stands for Kanan, because whoever is designing these cards has to be a Kanan Oshi, because Kanan has so many cards that are meta relevant. But this tap active is basically irrelevant on the card, right? Like we were talking about earlier, Loveless World. You put this Kanan in Loveless World, this tap skill activates a total of like 7 times. It's basically useless. So how would you evaluate a card? You know, how would you evaluate this card against every other card that's similar, but their tap actives might actually do something where this one doesn't really do anything? Right? Like, that's why I think this card, the strength of this card just for Advanced Plus makes it like a 7 for like non-meta players and stuff like that. But meta players aren't going to be going after cards like this. They are not. The importance of tap actives, especially for meta cards, is too great. You need to have some sort of balance between good stats and good kits, right? Tap active, passive, live show active. Most of the meta cards have, you know, above average stats, and if they just have above average stats, they have an amazing kit of abilities, right? Or the card has amazing stats and like slight, you know, above average kit of abilities. You need either way. Most of the meta cards are this way. So I mean, this is good for non-meta players. Would I actively scout for it? No. Right? Do not be fooled by this, by the stats. right? You basically have to... The way I'm evaluating this card is I'm evaluating this card as if it has a handicap of no tap skill. Which means she's like a 6 or a 7. Then we get down to Honoka. Okay? Pure attribute SK type. Oh, just like her party card. 12,400 base appeal, 6,200 stamina, 14,000 base technique. Which means, you know, this card at max limit break, pretty decent center 3 card, right? Pretty decent center 3 card. However, she has a voltage boost tap active, which is very weird. This basically turns her into like a budget first fest Ayumu. But once again, note the skill activation chance, 11%. Even though it is a gain 60% of her own appeal as voltage, her appeal is not her best stat, number 1. Number 2, the skill activation rate chance of this is so bad that this skill is basically irrelevant. It's basically like if you had a regular skill, but she gained 20% of her appeal as voltage. Okay? Passive, again, same appeal or same attribute appeal buffing passive, 5.2% makes it okay. The LSA is I do not like it. Right? 30% activation chance upon strategy switch. Increase the appeal of same attribute cards by 7.2% for the next 5 nodes. Whatever. This card is basically like a secondary scorer and nothing else. Like, if you were trying to run a pure attribute second years team, I would much rather run like a Mystic Fairy Ayumu or the Star Festival Rico. Like, I would rather run either of those 2 cards over this Honoka. As decent as the stats are, I would much rather run any of those other 2 cards over this one. You know, if you're trying to go for like a second year's pure attribute scoring composition. So, again, this is like the stats make the card like a 6.5. The tap skill, we have to basically ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. The passive is okay. The LSA is terrible. Like, realistically, you're normally only gonna have 1 chance to activate this. Like, it's bad. Like, this is like like I said, this is like a 6.5. So, all in all, you should not, you know, unless you're tiering for the event, and even if you are tiering for the event, you don't need to pull these cards, right? Because they don't give you extra event points, they just give you extra event drops. So, even if you are a Honoka Oshi, a Kanan Oshi, a Kanata Oshi, don't force yourself to get these cards. They're good, they're not great. They're not going to make the type of impact that you think they are on your overall lineup. Alright? Thank you, YouTube. That was actually a long analysis video. I will probably have chopped this up by some point. But, with that, we will go ahead and see you later. Take it easy, everyone. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.